How goes it?
I'm occasionally fiddling with making a little video game in a new game engine. And so like 90% of it is just learning how to, work in this game engine. I swear to God,
You're making a game?
don't think too much of it. I'm learning how to you know, use this game engine. I'm trying to make it a little dinky thing.
Huh.
It's my lowest priority, but I need to have a project to take up excess mental bandwidth because I'm not running any of these campaigns anymore.
Yeah.
D&D or stuff. It's just like, okay, this little thing that when nothing else needs to be done
Yeah.
and I have no dad obligations or anything else,
Right, right.
I
Yeah.
can put an hour or two or a few hours into fiddling around with this. And man, tonight, oh, so dumb. So dumb.
What?
So I was trying to figure out, so I'd gotten into my little top-down space shooter. It would, target the closest asteroid and shoot out a little laser. And like just getting that took me a while because I needed to like, okay, get an array of all the asteroids in range and now sort them and then target the one. Did that, yay. And that was like a month ago. And I was like, okay, cool. It's not blowing up the asteroid. I'll come back and blow up the asteroid later. Two
Okay.
weeks ago, I come back, spend an hour on it, can't fucking figure out why it's suddenly not working. I did a whole like 3 hour long tutorial doing the old like Atari asteroid game so I could
Okay.
understand the game system. I'm like
Yeah.
kind of like stealing from some of that. I'm like, why does it work there? Why doesn't it work on mine? And come back to it tonight, spend an hour and a half, 2 hours just trying everything, looking up things, reviewing the tutorial again. Jay, I didn't attach the asteroid script to the asteroid object.
Oh.
So the code that I'm trying to figure out and like why can't this signal connect to that object? It did it because there's no script attached to that object. And it's just like
So that I think that's a fair mistake, right? That's
oh well
not.
the hilarious thing is so I taught video game design course for like a year that I put together when I was still
Oh.
teaching. And almost that exact same scenario happened to one of my students. He's like the smartest kid, who's probably the smartest kid in the school.
Hmm.
And he was in the class and he was doing really well. And we were going through a tutorial and he just got stuck and he could not get this one freaking line of code at the very end of this very long script of this class
Yeah.
to do it. And so he worked on it for like 10 minutes. He's like, I'm stuck. Mr. Cole, come over, please help me. And I just started adding debugs to the
Hmm.
console, going up. And it's like, well, if this is not working, what else isn't working? And you just go all the way up to the top of the script. Literally, the whole script's not working. I see the name of the script, the class where it's declared,
Hmm.
and he didn't capitalize the first letter. And so it invalidated the entire class.
Oh wow. It's that sensitive, huh?
Which is a mistake I had made like almost a year ago when I was going through all these tutorials and like setting up the class and stuff. So I just pointed it to him on the screen and he just got really tense and just walked to the middle of the room, sat down, got in a fetal position, and just fumed silently for about 5 minutes because he was
Mm.
so pissed off. And when I realized my mistake this evening, I had a moment of you dumb, and then I was like, ah, and then I just let it go because like this is the way it fucking goes. And
Yeah.
I was able to laugh at it. Thank God.
Yeah, that's a lot, man.
Coding's not easy. It's not easy.
It,
There's a
it's
reason nerds get paid for it, hopefully well.
right, and it's just funny how something so simple could throw everything off. That's funny. That's your little casual thing you're doing to express yourself.
It's like literally my
That's crazy.
lowest priority item because I have to take care of all my
Yeah.
obligations and responsibilities, and this is like my one not like just brain rot, like
Yeah.
zone out social media or watching a show, or just like this is my one little project that I get to do that isn't like house related or family related or
Right,
anything
right.
else.
You got to have your thing. That's what the podcast is for me. But that's funny that that's what you chose for your little, chill out kind of
Yeah, it's
project.
really
I'll
great
do a
for a
little
thing where,
brain surgery just to
right?
chill out.
A thing where you have to hold essentially a whole bunch of different code and references in your head so you can understand how they're working collectively, but like it's only 2 or 3 hours, maybe every other week.
That's crazy to
Like
go
what?
back to in the middle of that. That's a lot. That's a
You're just
lot.
like, what was I doing last time?
That's exactly why I stopped playing like PS4 and stuff, was just because I start forgetting the controls and they're not just like smash button
Right.
games. Like I realized that when they had Batman Arkham game and I couldn't just run through it. And they had all these different controls you could use, and you gotta use strategy and stealth and all this other kind of stuff. I was like, I can't do this. If I can't sit here and spend a decent amount of time remembering this stuff and building up what I know, I can't just keep dropping in on this thing. I'm gonna
Yeah.
lose my place. I'm gonna
Hmm.
forget the narrative. So God of War, I can't sit there and play it like that because I can't. I don't come back to it often enough to really
Right. It's
enjoy
like,
what's going
what's
on.
the move set again?
Where am I at? You know,
It's
it's
too bad
easy to
because
get lost.
I hear the Ragnarok games are really fucking good.
It's beautiful, man. You can't tell where the game starts and the cutscenes begin. You can't. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's seamless. It's just you have to be there to do it. Like I have to have like a straight week with nothing else going on. Play, sleep, play, sleep, play. I don't have that kind of lifestyle, but I wish I did
Right.
because those games, boy, they deserve the attention that they need. They do.
It's not like playing a game on Atari, is it?
No, but that's why I go back to playing like Street Fighter and stuff like that. Games like that, I could just kind of go in there and just do what I gotta do. Where I get these old, like they have like the system where on one game they have like 80 Sega Genesis games all on
The
one.
emulators.
Yes, I go play those kind of, go back to some of those old games like Alter Beast or Space Harrier and, Outrun and stuff like that. Just,
Jeez.
going through the old school stuff. Just like, okay, it's fun. One touch you die kind of situation, but that's okay. You don't lose your place. It's just,
Yeah.
understand the patterns and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, this is my speed for now. It is what it is. So you about ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Five, four, three, two. It's Jay back in for another one, and tonight I have with me.
Your resident Star Wars nerd, Ryan.
What's up, Ryan?
Not bad. Survived a little bashing my head against the keyboard doing some light coding exercises earlier.
I snuck away yesterday to take Malay and her friends to Santa Cruz, so we spent the day there. Woke up at 5 in the morning. It was just a long day, but it was a nice day to see all the kids since they were like, 5 and 6 years old, and they've been friends ever since. And they got one more year to go, so this is their one last hoorah because next year is the last year. It's gonna go by quick, so much going on, and they probably not gonna be able to have time to all get together in one place. So
So she's a senior next year?
senior next year, dude. I know, I know, I know, I know.
Well, at least, as someone who used to teach middle and high school, she got through junior year, which is actually the hardest year because you're doing you're like, I gotta clear all these classes so I can apply to college next year. So
Yeah, yeah. So
hopefully she has a less stressful senior year, but yeah, the end is nigh.
it's yeah. So glad we got that in, but I am paying a price for it. So I'm just trying to work everything out. But yeah, so I got a chance to watch it not too long ago, so I'm just kind of finishing checking it out. I got my notes. I got the gist of everything, so I think I'm good to go.
I took notes on the second run through. First time I just watched it through.
Yeah,
Second time took some notes.
that's
We were
fair.
talking last time about like, are they going to stick the landing? Right? It's the last episode of any season is like, are they
Yeah,
going to wrap things up? Are they going to make it feel satisfying? Right? Because that's the last impression as you walk out of the season, the theater, whatever it is.
right.
And I think for this last episode, as a way to wrap up the season, I think they landed.
Yes.
I don't think they stuck it.
Yeah.
A little stumble or two, but I think they generally landed it. Like they actually wrapped up the story, right? They gave an
Yeah.
arc with, if there's no season 2, there's like, all right, they told a story, right?
Yes.
Beginning, middle, and end. Okay. But there was bits where it's like, and it's
Yeah.
not. It's hard. It's hard to say for me if it was like, does this make it from like, when it was enjoyable. I watched
Yeah.
it right the first time I watched it. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
but there was a couple refrigerator moments, right? The whole Hitchcock thing of like you watch a thing and then later you're like, you go to the refrigerator and you're like, wait a minute, this bit, right? This bit,
Yeah.
right? Or in the moment, maybe it trips you up, or later it trips you up. So
Yeah, I agree. It landed, but I thought it was interesting that it kind of introduces more questions without really giving more answers.
couple things was like if there was an explanation with this,
Yeah,
right? It would be like, oh, okay, it's that,
yeah,
right?
yeah. But they're introducing more. I'm like, well, you still got stuff that I'm letting you slide on, not really touching on and completing. Why you're adding more at this part of the game? And then also, they kind of squeeze that orange to the last drop until the very end, still having situations where I have to tell you something. We're still getting that on the very last episode.
Yeah.
And not even at the beginning of the episode, they're still talking that. But it wasn't like I felt cheated. It wasn't like I was pissed or it turned something so sideways. And I don't know if it was just like I'm not tripping about it because of my expectations. And then also, even though it was some answers I didn't get, it was some cool action stuff that kind of went down that I thought was kind of cool to see that kind of offset that a little bit.
The action was good. The action was
That's
really
been consistent. I'll give it that.
Consistent. And I saw a thing the other day where apparently it's the same assistant director and choreography team that did Vader's hallway fight.
That makes sense. There's a lot of halls going on. There's a lot of hallway stuff or close quarter kind of situations.
A lot more kung fu action going on.
Yes, a lot.
But yeah, the action was really good. And I don't even remember when we were first, like, I think it was like even the first episode or two when we were talking, and I was like, the look of the show.
Yes.
Like after something like Andor, where it looks like a movie, like
very cinematic,
light quality, right? It's very cinematic, and this was like, okay, this looks like a high-end TV show.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
But when they got to the fortress at Braddock, it was like, oh. Like I kind of like knew it was like it's a set, obviously, but it was like, oh, it's a set. Like it looked better at night, right? Because you can't, it's just less lighting. You can kind of hide things, and it looked like a studio set. Not like, oh, we went and found a place, not up on top of a mountain, but we found a place outdoors and shot this on a physical set instead of in a studio set.
Yeah.
And it was just like it was just a little off. It was like one of those things where it's just like, oh, we're perpetually have gray overcast because we can't actually do directional lighting unless we're actually outside. So it's little things like that with the look of it. But it wasn't also like, oh god, it's horrible. It was just like,
But the show had kind of sketchy special effects and stuff here and there too, especially with the speeder bikes and stuff like that. Where scenes used to be cut real quick, like nobody gets off of anything; it just goes to the next scene, and so it's been a lot of that kind of stuff. So, like I said, that stuff has been kind of consistent, and so it's not like your expectations kind of like, okay, this is. But I did notice that too, and it almost reminds me of like. Maybe they had the real thing in the beginning and they destroyed it and be like, oh man, we had to do that scene over again. Let's throw something together to pretend like it's the real set just to get us by this scene.
There was there's at least one shot, I think it was of May.
Yeah.
Like towards the end where, they're still at the fortress and it just like, that really looks like a green screen background. Yeah. Like that might've been a pickup shot later. Right. Where they're like, we need this extra thing in there. Just get in your costume, green screen, right? But it still wasn't.
Yeah,
like, oh,
it wasn't.
God,
like I said, it wasn't awful. It wasn't awful. But like I said, when I seen them go back to that planet, I was kind of thinking like, yeah, it does look different in daylight. Like you said, it was just kind of like, huh, like that's the same place. Okay, well, yeah. All right, so we're talking about episode 8, The Acolyte. What's that look?
Well, it's so I rewatched it and I took my notes and then I just underlined the specific things because like there's a lot that does happen. Like there's a lot on this page here. Yeah. Like when we last saw Osha with Kamir, she puts on his helmet, right? Yeah. And that transitions in the flashback episode. And here she's in it and like clearly something starts to happen and the same sort of possession inside someone's head starts happening to Kamir.
Okay, so I was tripping off that because I thought the helmet supposed to shield from that kind of stuff. Because that happened before, and I was thinking like, wait, the helmet isn't it supposed to?
So this
it
is
should
one of
work both ways, right? It don't
This
work
is one of those
way.
things where it's raising questions.
But didn't you think
right?
that too? Did you wonder kind of like, shouldn't that?
Well, yeah. Well, the thing is like the way I just think of the helmet and the fact that we don't know what it does. It's
Yeah.
cortosis, okay. Kamir says it blocks, and it clearly does because we see later, like he gets called out because he doesn't have it on.
Yeah.
But the rest of its effects, we're assuming, right? So we don't know, and it might be some weird thing with because Osha and May are one person split in two, so putting the helmet on might affect a thing, or it might be just Osha's so damn strong, or she's because my guess is it's a dark side artifact.
Yeah.
It's just ramping her up and causing sort of abilities to go out of control, right? Because she's so poorly trained.
Yeah, and she's dipping into the deep end for sure. Because even she seemed like she was getting lost within it.
Yes.
Which I thought was interesting because it does start off with her and still in the helmet and her breathing and him trying to take the helmet from her and get close.
Yeah, he has to push through the mind trick to actually physically go and get the helmet and take it off of her.
Right.
And then she has her little like, oh, I saw May, and she's holding a lightsaber and she's like attacking Soul without the lightsaber. And like she's gonna kill him. And of course we find out later, it's like, that's not May, that's you, honey. Like,
well, really, either way, they're both her.
right. Well,
technically, it is her doing it. So yeah, and it's funny because that was the kind of like the reveal
your
of it.
misleading prophecies.
Right. But it's funny how that was a reveal, but we already kind of knew that already. So it was kind of like, I don't know. It's before.
Well, they did kind of play with it because May did get Soul's lightsaber.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
She does the Luke and throws the lightsaber away, right? And rejects sort of like, I'm going to get vengeance routine.
But it's interesting how we were so behind waiting for them to tell us something for us to get beyond that and know more than Soul. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's like we were behind like the way they were feeding information and stuff. And then we got kind of past it. So it was kind of funny to be on the other side of that. I don't know. Like the person who's walking us, we ended up passing them up, and then we started kind of like, oh, okay, we're waiting for them to catch up now. When the whole time we were following by what we're being fed.
That's one of the things of, does the audience know more than the characters, or do the characters know more to the audience? Right.
Now the characters knew more at first.
And
then we did. So it was interesting for that to change while watching it. Usually you kind of feel like, oh, you start putting together, but like it wasn't a secret no more. It was still his secret, but it was an open secret now.
Right.
And so it almost is kind of like silly, like, man, spit it out now. We
and especially if like last time we were like, man, that was really dumb. And also some of it's like, it's not borderline like, oh, you did a horrible thing.
Yeah.
And oh, you did a unfortunate but justified thing. It's a little in the middle of like, you overreacted.
Yeah.
And you killed your mom. But we can kind of understand how someone would do that, but it's still tragic.
Yeah.
So it's like in this middle ground. But yeah, I'm kind of reminded of the Revenge of the Sith, right? Episode 3, where we see Anakin kind of like, oh, he's struggling with, what is he going to do to protect Padme, and then just ramps up into killing younglings and slaughter. Like he just, without the Clone Wars animated show where you get the time to see Anakin
go down
slowly
that path.
Like you're like, oh, I see the edge on this guy and how close he is to it, right? And how much closer he gets to it. I feel like we have a similar sort of thing with Osha and May, because both of them kind of move too fast at times and in ways without having a chance to express their thoughts or their feelings, right?
Because they wasn't ambiguous. They were kind of clear on what their motives and feelings were. So it wasn't even like you saw this inner fight the whole time or nothing. It was just like, oh,
now I'm going to go left.
Let's switch positions. Like, really?
Now I'm going to go right. And you can kind of, I feel like May's transition was handled a little bit better because she gets that conversation with Soul where
Yes.
it's like, yeah, Soul's like, yeah, I fucked up. It was like, I still kind of feel justified, but it was still fucked up. Like,
Right.
you're right. I did it bad. I did it bad, and I should tell the council, and like, now you're here.
Right.
You're the proof I needed, which was like, oh, that's the last bit, right? It wasn't necessary. There's the whole thing where it's like, oh, we got to cover it up because otherwise Osha doesn't get her dream as a Jedi. But there's also like, but none of this makes sense without May, because then Osha's just a kid
Right.
that's really strong in the Force, not an identical person split in two.
Made by the Force.
Made by the Force. Now
Right.
that's like, oh, now I can go and talk about it. Like, okay. So there's a little bit there where you can see May kind of like, oh, that's why when she gets Soul's lightsaber, right? And it's not even clear that Soul's going to kill Kamir. He just has the upper hand, and she takes it away from him. It's like, oh, here we go. She's going to kill him. And then she's like, no, I want you to face justice, right? She throws
Right.
away the lightsaber and breaks it open, which will be relevant later,
Yeah.
right? But she does the Luke thing of like, I'm wearing white now. I'm going to take the high road. You're going to face justice. And it's like, okay, I can see that. But May's whole thing, oh, I couldn't become a Jedi because I hated you, May.
Yeah,
Not because I had any resentment towards Soul.
Right.
Never blamed you.
Right.
You ruined everything.
So
That's what I was upset. That was like, oh, the words make sense, but it was just so fast.
Yeah.
It's just so fast.
Yeah, because it's almost like I'm not judging you because nobody blames you, but I still hate you because of my mother.
I blamed you this whole time. It's
Right.
like, where was that the rest of the season?
Right.
Right? If she had even had, I don't know, I might be forgetting a scene earlier where she's like, yeah, but she like burned down the fortress and got my whole coven killed. Like,
Right.
there's this thing where like you need to face justice, right? She had that
Right.
little conflict at the end of 5 with May,
Yeah.
Osha and May, where it's like, no, you're criminal, you need to go in. And it's like, if they had just like that scene maybe makes more sense if that's the underwriting thing of like, I've been so angry at you this whole time.
Right.
If it had been like, you killed our entire coven, right? Which May would have been like, wait, what? No, that was right. Is
Right. But that's even like when that came up with Soul, and he's like, she's like, well, you killed my mother, and he's like, well, you started the fire.
yeah.
I'm like, wait, what? Like, huh? Well, put it like this. Say the house got burnt down, but her family would still be alive. That wasn't due to the fire. That was due to
Yeah.
you Jedis.
There's blame all over the place, right? Everybody did a little thing, destabilize the next, to destabilize the next, and it's another tragedy. But
you killed my mom versus you started a fire is
yeah, no, I didn't say
it's not comparable, I don't think.
Yeah. Soul 1 is the adult, and May is a child in the flashback. So that alone, like, is way more onus on Soul, right?
Yeah, it's just like, man, your perspective is just as messed up as hers. And she was a kid that didn't even see the whole thing happen. She has a better guess than your truth, and you were there.
Yeah, but to my whole thing of like, OSHA's so confusing with both of them switching outfits and sort of like,
exactly.
but OSHA's just like, it was you, May, that ruined everything. You're the reason I couldn't be a Jedi. And then they have what I put down in my notes is a mirror battle, because they're like using literally like the same moves against each, because they're the same person. Like, okay,
Right.
like again,
That was well done,
really
though.
good. Yeah,
Yeah, you couldn't tell it's a stunt double or anything because their faces, they kind of showed enough of their. Sometimes they just be all wig and you can't see none of the faces or profile at anything. No, they're actually showing more. Like, it felt like they was really fighting herself. It really looked like that. It wasn't like, oh, that person a little bit taller or different face a little bit or covering up the whole time, head always ducking. None of that. It was nice and clean.
Yeah, no, and the scene itself works. Is just like overall how quick like some of the slip into like, oh, you're going full dark side. Okay, here we go.
Right.
Right. I don't know. For some people, it might have been. It was an interesting thing too. A small thing that I noticed with was it Amanda
Yeah.
Stenberg, the actress playing Osha and May, is that when Osha is back with Kamir and they're moving towards his ship to go to Brendok,
Yeah.
and then when she's in that scene with May and she's ramping up to this is actually your fault. It was a thing that I noticed when she was walking to the ship. It's like, you sort of, you sway your arms back and forth as you're walking.
Yeah.
And it was just a weird thing where like her right arm wasn't moving nearly as much as her left. Right. And it wasn't really attention called to it. Right. But in the scene with Osha and May, and she's accusing May, her right arm again is clenched to her side. Right. And she's sort of like gesturing a little bit with her left, and it's like, I don't know if that's just a random thing that I noticed these two things, but it seems like maybe as an acting choice, that's her anger in her right clenched hand, right?
Yeah.
Which, because it's not so prominent and not called out, it doesn't really help much. But it might have just been like a choice that she made that like that's the tell that she's angry.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't know, it might be like something if you look back at the other episodes, maybe it's there. I don't know. It's just,
but sometimes it do be something, because I know I saw this TV show that's on Netflix called Kaleidoscope, and a character had this weird thing that they were doing with their hand, and I couldn't tell if it was a choice, and it actually did play into the plot because they were seeing stuff out of context, out of order. And I was thinking, like, wait a minute.
That was that heist show.
Exactly.
That was the heist show. Okay.
Yes. And he had an issue with his hand. I'm thinking, like, that on purpose? I couldn't tell what's going on.
Is that just a character choice? Or
right.
Is that
but kind of find out, it was really a part of the character that they were going through. Depending on when you saw the episode, he's at different stages of it. So.
Oh, interesting.
So it's just like, oh.
Yeah.
Interesting choice.
Well, for Ocean, I don't know if it was a choice or I'm just seeing a pattern in inferring things. But I thought overall the acting was fine. I keep seeing people be like, "Oh, the acting is horrible," and it's like, the acting's not the best thing in the world. I think Kamir's stuff is great. Souls is fine. I think for Osha and May, it really depends. I feel like it's tough because they're kind of the MacGuffin.
Yeah.
At times. And so it's like sometimes like I feel like it's like we just got to move them as the plot MacGuffin around and stuff.
Yeah.
Perfect example is like at the beginning of the episode where Soul and May are having that conversation and she breaks loose and he's about to tell her it's like you're actually two separate people, but then she shocks him and she runs and she gets in the escape ship.
Right.
And there's this whole chase through that asteroid field and then fucking Basil. Right.
Sabotage.
Soul's got some sort of, literally what I wrote down, Soul's got some sort of targeting thing.
Right.
And so it's like, does he have a stun gun? Like a stun weapon on the ship?
I was trying to figure that too.
Does he have a grapple?
Yeah, exactly.
It's not clear that he's going to shoot her.
Because usually when we see that kind of thing, that do mean you're lining up to shoot.
I was looking at the shape of something on.
Right. So I'm looking at the ship in the front of it. I'm like, does it have like a little scoop there? I'm like, as it gets close, and you can push a button and it makes the ship go back into it. I was kind of wondering too. I was like, okay, when you do catch it, what exactly are you planning on doing at that close range?
Right, and he was. It wasn't like he was far back.
No, he was on her.
A couple lengths behind, but it's clear that like Basil sees that and decides I'm just gonna go over here and like decouple something,
right,
and like depower the ship temporarily so she can get away and land, and then you can land later. And then Basil just runs back into the ship, and Soul sees him, like he understands that he sabotaged it, but he like if he had just said
you think Soul
I was gonna use. I swear, because he turns around.
I know that he noticed it. That's why I was kind of wondering. Like, I thought it was kind of weird because he was looking at the controls, like, "What's going on?" I didn't think he noticed because he's in the middle of spinning out of control when it happened.
It's so dumb because it could have been one of those things of like, Basil, why did you? I was gonna stun her ship.
Yeah.
Right? It's just like, oh, misunderstanding. But really, what they needed a way to get from that conversation of almost telling him that you are actually one person to how do we get you separated down to the planet. That's what that whole sequence is for. And so, oh man, Basil's just like hand of the writer in action.
Right.
Right.
but it's almost like they're kind of trying to wipe it away. Where okay, no interaction, just do this to make this
So
happen.
so we can do this so we can also delay
And
another
and
reveal.
yeah, then bow out, but nobody speaks to you. You don't say anything back. There's no contact. Ships need to get destroyed or ships need to have problems,
Yeah.
and then run out the back door. Like I said, I didn't realize that Soul even knew what was going on. I knew he knew that the ship was losing control, but I don't think I didn't know if he knew. Because honestly, why would he even think to go back and look at that panel for his issues that he's having necessarily?
Right.
Why he's in the mid pursuit? But it's almost like the other time we were talking too about, did Basil discover that it wasn't really Osha or not? Like that was questionable. It's almost done in the same way, where you just see him there and he kind of dips out, and it's kind of like, did he tell Soul or not, or did Soul, like you said, did Soul figure it out himself? So they've been using that character that way, way the whole time. It's just like you would think that with all the scenes that they gave him before of him discovering and tracking down and recharging the robot and all this other kind of stuff, that you would think it'd be some kind of clear,
especially the
resolve,
robot,
right?
Because
but
what they could have done instead of essentially what they did of having Basil break it up, they could have just had it where when Soul takes down May, she's already set up the droid somewhere as a failsafe, right? And so she breaks out somehow, otherwise, stuns Soul, and then tells the droid as he snatches it off the counter to like run a shutdown on the ship, jumps in the escape ship, and then flies off. And then Soul's like, oh, I gotta fucking reset stuff again. And again, he's delayed in getting down. So, but
yeah,
you gotta do this weird thing with Basil.
If you have this character that could sniff out stuff like that, it'd have been cool if they used him in a way where it'd be like where he can't tell the difference between the two because they smell the same, because they are the same.
And
that'd have been like, oh, if he can't tell who's who, something.
You could also have had it where someone else is relying on him to tell the difference, and he can't.
Right?
And they don't, and Basil doesn't realize it.
Right.
And the other person doesn't realize it.
Right.
And that causes confusion.
And she can continue to slide in and she doesn't get busted, but we think she's gonna get busted because we know that he knows something, but we find out that he doesn't really know or can't tell. And so that'd be a thing, like that'd be the ticking bomb that we think is gonna go off and it doesn't. It's like we're amped up, like she's gonna get busted, he's gonna catch her, and then when he catches her, he can't prove nothing and he doesn't know either. Like, oh, she gets away with it. Something. If you're gonna use that kind of thing, then use it.
Shoulda, coulda, woulda.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like Book of Boba Fett levels of like, whoa, why didn't they do it? And it's just like, all right, that was weird.
Yeah. Funny because his purpose is very obvious, but it just wasn't connecting. But
it gets the characters where they need to be. Soul lands, he turns on the transponder, so now Vernesta can be like, okay, we gotta go, right? Blah, blah. She has we'll talk about her whole thing with the senator, blah 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 later. She's able to show up later, and then we get the big fight with Kamir and Soul.
And she's just walking around looking guilty the whole time too, Sinestro. I have not seen a scene where she didn't look guilty as hell. Every time.
Which kind of works considering what we see happen in this episode, where it's like, oh yeah, no, clearly Kamir's being like, oh yeah, I used to be a young lean Padawan, but I was discarded. It's like, oh, and you got kind of whip like scars on your back, and the whole thing with like that helmet and blocking and not blocking. He takes his helmet off after Soul bests him, and that gives the opening for Vernesta to be like, it's interesting because they have, when Soul lands and gets out, he does the same sort of like force sense, right?
Yeah.
So when Vernesta does it later and does the same gesture and has the same sound sting, we know, oh, okay, she's doing that, and she can tell Kamir's there, and goes,
she picks him up.
You, and then he's like, oh shit, and he puts his helmet on again, and
she's like, I know where he is,
right? So it's like, okay, so to the whole like she looks guilty throughout the whole season is like, oh yeah, we can kind of guess why now. She's got a fuck up in her past, and it's Kamir. So
how do you feel about all these, just behind the scenes of the Jedis like this? Like, it's almost like, just for metaphor purposes, like, you go to a police station and there's one bad cop that seems to be kind of like, or somebody's incompetent or whatever, and we get a chance to spend a day inside the precinct, and you see everybody is a hot mess. It's like, how does this thing even run with all this covering and looking the other way, and
well, see,
nobody
now you sound like the senator. Because that's his whole thing.
But that's how it was set up. But yeah, so well,
why would you question your heroes?
That's how they put them on there, though. And I'm wondering, like, do you feel like this is a fair interpretation of the Jedi? Because this is the interpretation that we're getting from this show, right? This is definitely a perspective. And I don't know. I'm sure possibly in books and different lore and stuff, it might have the same kind of issues, or this kind of thing has been brought up. But this is definitely.
Well, you just kind of have to look even to the Clone Wars, the animated show, because they made mistakes. There was a fucking Jedi general who was like getting his own clones killed on purpose because he was like, "This is bullshit," and fuck you. Like, so the Jedi aren't perfect, and so just seeing that played out again isn't like, oh no, my perfect knights in shining armor. It's not a surprise. It doesn't seem inappropriate. And again, it's playing into this idea of they're at their peak here in the High Republic and are going to go into a decline. And part of that is specifically because the Sith are there fucking shit up.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just like if I saw that for anything else, or like, say, the council or everything, and everybody was crooked. I don't know. It's just interesting.
And it might just be it's these characters are crooked, right?
Yeah. But I'm just saying. But everybody on here, that somebody did something.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm saying that that seemed like that's a lot.
Yeah, because all the secondary Jedi, like, I'm guessing.
And all reason why they didn't do anything that we know of, because we didn't hear enough about them yet.
Right. We haven't been around long enough for the go. And by the way, I have this horrible guilt over this mistake I made. Right. And it might be just one of those things of like, if right, the Jedi had just been like, oh, hey, we had a fuck up over here. Oh, and we had this other fuck up, and just called them out as they happen, right? It becomes a different timeline, and it doesn't have this sort of institutional problem.
But it's almost like Carrie-Anne Moss's character, like she's covering for Soul because Soul messed up, but then she messed up too. But then even their commander, then Sinestra, then she messed up. Like every level, there's somebody oops on every level. It's not nobody's in charge that's trying to hold. Like everybody's fixing and covering for themselves. Like it's no stage on there that the next person up didn't do something too. It's not like my incompetent team. And, I got to include myself too because I did something too. Even the top did something too.
So going back to the prequels era with Yoda, which we see his furry little head at the very end of the episode. But the rest of the council, they send one of their Jedis as a spy to assassinate Count Dooku. And it's very much like they publicly we kick you out as your cover story. You're no longer a Jedi. Get lost. And they're like, good luck killing Count Dooku, which is totally not like a cool thing, but like they would really shortcut this war that we don't like. Just take out the king on the other side.
But at least that's strategic versus bumbling.
It is, but it's also like, yeah, we're gonna do a little bit of dirty work, and like the whole I guess we'll just be the leaders of this war, the generals, so. But
you gotta admit, for them to be on a science mission, that was a crap show. For the slaughter that ensued on those people on that planet and that coven, that was a lot coming from let's check this plant life to everybody being dead and scorched earth. That is a lot for the handful of Jedis did all that. Who needs a war? Who needs clones when you got these incompetent Jedi that's taking out all these people and scorching the earth and covering it up? Who needs clones to fight?
Covered it up. It'd be a different ball game. It'd be like, yeah, we fucked up. That's our bad.
But I'm just saying the damage that handful of characters did on that planet. First they're surprised that there's life in it, and by the time they got done, there was no life on it again. You
They're
know,
like, yeah,
so
Guardians of Peace and Order in the Galaxy.
it's just like man. But I don't know. And then, like I said, it was all on accident. Just think if they were trying to clear house, what would that have been? Because if this was on accident and they did this kind of damage, whoo, point them in the right direction was.
I think they would have gone through that coven like Swiss cheese.
Yeah.
Like, again, they are the more combat focused sect versus the coven. So, and going back to the whole like sort of Osha and May, especially Osha's sort of like quickly going to the dark side.
Yeah.
When like May does her whole thing of like, I took your lightsaber away. I'm not going to kill you. You need to face justice instead. But then it does very much seem like she gets Soul to say he killed their mother specifically because she's like, because I know Osha's over there. Right? So she can hear it directly from him. And that triggers Osha's. Hey, she picks up the lightsaber and then she starts choking Soul out.
Yeah.
Right? Stop talking because he keeps trying to like justify and apologize.
To be honest, if she wouldn't have choked him, he wouldn't have told her anyway. He's been trying for 7 episodes. Chances are he wasn't going to say it anyway. It wasn't going to come out. Something was going to happen. He's going to get tased in the balls and somebody's going to run off. It wasn't going to.
Right.
He was never going to.
And I think one of the things that could also be unsatisfying for some people with that scene is just like you want to think that if you were in that position that you'd be able to get through to the person about how bad you feel about it and that yes, absolutely, I fucked up, and try to find a way through that, right? But he does not, and May force chokes him out, right? Which seemed to get to Kamir's whole thing of killing a Jedi without using a weapon, right? Because the very beginning of the episode when Osha has the vision and thinks that it's May, he's like, oh, she has figured it out. Damn it. He's like, I gotta go get her, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, that's the thing that they were looking for him, and we haven't even got to it, his actual Sith master, right? Of someone that can force choke, right? They're like, ooh, that seems to be a qualifier for what he's looking for. It's not just like cut you down with a weapon. It's I use the force to kill you.
So why would that be so impressive to him when he has the force as well with all the throwing and slowing down and all this kind of stuff? You know what I mean? He's teaching her. So I didn't understand why that was
and he hasn't taught her anything yet.
Exactly. So I didn't understand why.
I don't know. I don't know, but it's like one of those things again. Am I seeing a connection where there isn't one? Right? It's one thing for the prophecy part, but it's like that might have been part of what he was trying to work May up to originally when he trained her, that she would be strong enough to just, I'm not going to use weapons. I'm just going to choke you out. Right?
Yeah.
But then for Osha to just be like, here we go. Boom. Right? Choking out. I wasn't thrown off that she was able to do it. My whole thing was, it was just like, oh, she's doing it. I'm curious of your reaction to what happened after she did it with Soul's lightsaber. Tell me your thoughts.
You mean what happened with it?
With it changing colors?
I don't know. The way the scene was, okay, how about this? It was a cool thing, like, whoa. Like, okay. And you can see that it's fighting for what side it's going to be on. Is it going to be red or blue and all that kind of stuff. But since it was kind of mixed in with that, with the choke and all the other kind of stuff that was going on, it kind of dampened the moment for me. Even though it was cool, it was just kind of like I was still trying to understand. Like, oh, she really did do that, and she really did lose it like that, and
hadn't settled in yet.
Right. It was just like all the stuff at once. It's just all these cool things happening, but it's like a whole bunch of good stuff stacked so tight you can't appreciate any of it. You're still trying to figure out what's going on. But like I knew something was going to happen because they showed the it being broken open so you can see the crystal. You can
And
see
her
the crystal
hand
kind of turning.
actually touching the crystal.
Right.
So there's a little setup that something's happening.
Right, and you see it turn red for a minute, and then you saw it turn blue. So it seemed like it was trying to work its way through, choosing, kind of going with her mindset, I guess, with the changes. So I thought it was cool, but like I said, I think way it was all put together, I didn't appreciate the moment. It could have felt bigger than it was, but was I impressed and like, wow, that's cool. But the way it was laid out for me was kind of.
I feel like
undercut
one thing with it that kind of threw me off was after she, ignites it, takes the swing at Kamir, and it starts turning red. It's flowing red up the blade, which was okay because it's like, oh, it's putting energy into the blade, and so as it changes to red, the color just travels up the blade. I was like, okay,
but it's covering the blue. It's red covering blue.
Right, the red's overtaking the blue,
right.
And like part of me, it took too long, and it's like, is it gonna reverse? Is she gonna pull it? Is she gonna pull it back? If it had just been like, if it had taken just a second to just and done, right?
Yeah.
No going back.
Right.
But it was just long enough to be like, no, okay. So yeah. I don't know if that was intentional or not.
Yeah, I think it was supposed to show the struggle in the way of her, where her mindset was. But like I said, it was just the way it was done. It was kind of like,
yeah. And this is, I think I've mentioned it before. This is the bleeding a kyber crystal thing, right? So with new canon under Disney, they've set up that that's what specifically Sith Darksiders do to their crystals, right? Is that they dominate them and infuse it with basically all their pain and anger and fear and everything else, because the kyber crystals are not quite sentient, like quasi like a thing.
Yeah.
So instead of like being a symbol of like the spirit of the blade and sort of you're in tune with the force, it's no, you are my tool and I will dominate you and I will put all my pain and hate and anger into you because you are my tool, right? They have a whole thing where like they had a comic where Luke undid that, and Ahsoka like took 2 Inquisitor kyber crystals and undid it, and that's how she got the white blades. So when it happens, I'm like, oh, okay, they're doing that. All right, interesting.
Right.
I think it works emotionally. There were people, though, I did see some comments online of like, then why didn't Anakin's blade bleed to red when he's like killing all the younglings? Like it's all the way through to becoming a crispy critter, right? After fighting Obi-Wan with a blue blade. So it's like, was it just the fact that she touched it? Was it the fact that she's untrained? He is, like, who knows? But it doesn't ruin the prequels. It's just we don't know why it did it for her. She touched it maybe in her moment of extreme grief and agony, and he didn't. Who knows?
Yeah, it could be director's vision of how they do an interpretation of what's going on, and it's just like, okay.
But yeah, so she does that, and then turns the lightsaber red, and then pretty much like the rest of it is a lot of like, okay, Vernestra and her crew are walking to the fortress. This kind of killed me, of like, she's got a whole crew of Jedi with her, and she's like, surround the fortress, go, no, okay, we're gonna, and it's just like, show some urgency. Like the second she knew Kamir was there, it should have been like, okay, I sense the presence of a dark side person here.
Right.
They are a threat. We need to move immediately. Either let's pick up this ship and go fly over there. So again, it's one of those things where it's like, you could read it as like she's intentionally slow rolling, or it's just like they didn't want the character to do the really smart thing that would go and interrupt the rest of the crap that they have to wrap up, which is, oh no, they're coming. Kamir puts his helmet back on. We got to get out of here. Oh, they're going to get both of us. Oh, here, let's leave one of us behind, but we'll mind wipe you.
Yeah.
That.
Like, I didn't understand why they would even leave each other. Why did it have to be one there at all when you know she's going to be blamed for all that stuff? after
weird
all
'cause
that trouble to get together, and who's to say that he would just have
Right.
2 apprentices or something? Who's to say that he'll make them battle out, see who wins, or whatever, or know that he needs the power of both of them because they're more powerful
Right.
together? Anything.
Exactly.
So the fact she's getting left and wiped, I'm like, what is that? Like, why?
And the whole thing was like, I think it was like May was like, I ruined things for you in the past, right? Let me make up for it by getting fucking mind wiped.
Right.
Just like that's a bit much. It
That-
allows everything to get wrapped up narratively and like, okay, we're gonna do our
Yeah.
cover up thing and you don't remember anything, so we don't have to hold you to account because you had your mind wiped.
Since when does any kind of law works like that? They don't care if you don't
It's
remember
like
or
you
not.
did the thing.
Well, we do. I'm sorry. Too bad you don't remember. We do. You're going to jail, or you're
And
going
who
to be
knows?
punished.
Maybe she's gonna be in Jedi jail until season 2 or whatever. So she's not free, but
Right.
I don't know. It was like, this is a bit much. And then Basil's like, oh, I can still smell. We go find him.
Smilo ran. He ain't never ran from no Jedis before, so I'm surprised they ain't all just try to take him out. They didn't say like they've been no badder ass than the ones that they already taken out by himself.
Well,
They wouldn't have stood a chance.
the jabronis wouldn't, but his former master, who clearly bested him previously, he might still be like, I don't want to fight her. Let's get the fuck out of here. Right? Which is, I can buy that easily without even have to say anything. But yeah, and so then they just clean everything up, they cover everything up. Vernestra basically like goes up to Soul's body and is like, I'm sorry, friend, because I am gonna throw you under the bus.
Yeah.
I'm like, we're just gonna cover this stuff up. And so then she goes and reports to the Senate like hearing and is like, yeah, we had some rogue Jedi and they messed up and Soul went and killed everyone and he went rogue. And then it opens up the whole thing like, we are gonna have that external investigation now. It's like, you're gonna have the external investigation now. Okay.
And she was just as guilty of stuff. That's why it's just kind of crazy. But like, I guess she did apologize to his dead body, to her dear friend that she just said was her dear friend. And it's just like I said, everybody was dirty. Everybody had their thing. I'm thinking like, I don't know. It's interesting.
And then it wraps up with she finally gets an audience with Yoda and then cut. And speaking of masters, we haven't called it out yet, but so did you have any idea who that wackadoodle alien was in Kamir's cave?
No, but the face looked kind of familiar. So, and I figured that was the mastermind behind it all, because it's they wouldn't know that he was there.
That is Darth Plagueis the Wise.
Okay.
So you might remember in Revenge of the Sith, there's that whole scene where Anakin's talking to Palpatine, whatever that weird theatrical water thing was.
Yeah.
And they're talking about, oh, how can I protect my wife? Totally someone I care about, not my wife. And he's like, oh well, there's unnatural ways.
Right.
From Plagueis that's his master that he apparently killed at the time of like Phantom Menace. Like,
don't you gotta kill your master to be the master?
Do. Yeah.
Okay.
But most of that is laid out in a legacy book. Like all the stuff with Darth Plagueis that like some people are like, oh, but this changes things, and it's like in a book that doesn't count anymore. So like the new canon hasn't really done anything with Plagueis. So it's definitely him. It's the same type of alien. Like it matches the timeline.
Yeah.
Some people were like, well, does this mean Palpatine's running around? And like, no, he's way too young, right? But that's definitely Plagueis. So the Sith 100% are in play, but no one knows about him. And of course, Vernestra didn't report anything about Kamir, so no one in the Jedi Order, except from her and maybe Yoda, know that there's any actual Sith running around at this point.
So all the other Jedi that went there with her don't know that's what he is?
Which Jedi? No one saw Kamir.
Oh, because he ran. Didn't she say she sent him? That's why she knew where he was and to go get him?
But she didn't say to go get a dark side person. She said we're gonna go to the go to the
Because she said she knew
fortress
where
where
she was. Because she said, like, did she say I knew where he was? Well, I guess she didn't have to explain to them what he was.
or who
But
she was talking about. She didn't say, "Oh, my former apprentice who's definitely fallen to the dark side." She
that she was
could, as
surprised was
far
still
as
alive.
right, it could have been like, "Oh, you're talking about Soul, right?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, totally talking about Master Soul. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Totally not my dark side apprentice, right?" So yeah, no one's in the loop. Like she probably told Yoda, like, "Hey, we got a problem." Maybe not. Who knows?
Yeah.
Season two.
Yeah.
It is kind of
I
tough to
think
have
people.
the good guys doing some dirty stuff.
This is kind of like how people probably felt about seeing Luke toss the lightsaber. They had, those same folks that
Mm-hmm.
still have the same kind of issue with this. This is kind of the same thing, even though it probably
And
goes a
part
little
of it
bit more
is,
deeper than that situation, but it's still kind of the disregard in a
well,
way.
it's a disregard of especially the legacy books that, plague us and all this other stuff and set up some of these timelines that aren't there anymore. It goes entirely against their headcanon.
Yeah.
So,
Do, do,
yeah, I get it.
do you feel like the Star Wars is far enough along to start doing this kind of switch up? 'Cause, okay, so it's been a thing for a few years now where they'll take, things that's been around for a long time and they'll switch it up, right? It's like, okay, we run out of stories to do with this side of it. Let's switch to the other side. Like even from the movie or the musical Wicked, it's like the story is switched. The Wicked Witch of the West was the good witch and she was shunned by everybody else. And all the good, witches and stuff, they were really the evil mean girls to her. Or
Right.
even with Cobra Kai, where Johnny was just misunderstood. He was the true Karate Kid. This kid, Daniel LaRusso, comes out of nowhere and just like a cheap shot and win the competition and steals his dream. You know what I mean? So we have a lot of going back and revisiting and getting a different perspective. And I kind of feel like that's what's kind of happening with Star Wars in a way, even though it hasn't been called out necessarily. But I feel that's kind of where things are happening. And do you feel like it's
I don't know if
too
that's
soon?
I don't know if that's the complaints that I've seen because like
Well,
this
people are feeling
air
they're not getting it. They feel like they're not getting the Jedi's they expecting,
they're not
or the
getting
treatment of it, or the perspective of the
well, there's
Jedi's they're
lots
expecting.
I saw people complaining today about the whole, bleeding the kyber crystals thing.
But not at that level. I'm talking about fundamentally. Like we kind of discussed before about how, they could fundamentally change up like what you're expecting. Like,
Oh, that
like,
the Jedi are not perfect paragons?
okay, it's almost like even though people did like the interpretation that Zack Snyder had for Heroes, his interpretation of the Justice League, a lot of people didn't because they kind of didn't ring true to how they usually are as far as the
Right.
characters, their motives, their movements, and how they, their reasons and behind what they're doing and stuff like that. People didn't like that take enough to where they was trying to change it mid journey, like they didn't finish.
Readjust.
Right, and so I mean like that. Now people might like it because it's different. Like, yeah, I've never seen Superman quite like that before. Who lets his dad die so he won't be outed, and maybe not save people because and yes, that makes sense in the real world, but is that Superman? Because that fundamentally changes things by even little tweaks like that. Like, yeah, it makes the story different, makes it more grounded, makes it more real, but then it also takes away something else that people connect with Superman. It's like you
Well,
changed the one ingredient, and it might seem like not a big deal, but everybody knows it when they drink it because like, what happened to the little splash of cinnamon? It's not the main ingredient, but it makes that drink what it is.
well, I mean, it depends entirely on what individual people's different expectations are. Because, like,
And I'm not
with
talking
the
about just show in particular either. I'm talking about with all the new movies and stuff, and they feel like it's girl power and
new
all that.
canon.
Just all the stuff, just all the. It's almost like a reset. You bring all the people in that you love and grew up with, and they all get die off or or humiliated or something, and you go, oh, here's the new person that's gonna, and not that it always got to be, but it's not even a nice handoff. It's almost like bringing them in to get rid of them, so then we could follow through with this new thing. Like we're here now, and
Well,
it's
I don't know. The only other franchise that's even vaguely struggled with similar things is Star Trek. right? Because they're always moving forward and doing a new thing, and sometimes they get to do it in new eras and new characters, and they're trying to, thread that needle as well. And some people are like, no, fuck the new shit, and some people are like, yeah, the new shit's great.
Right.
As I don't. It's going to depend on what individual thing is outside someone's expectation and what they want.
Do you believe in the majority ruling on that? Of course, everybody's not going to like everything, but then there's things that are shown to be successful and there's things that's shown not to be successful. And being people, you too, I'm sure, we're on the side a lot of times of stuff that everybody may not like it. The majority may not like it. It might be a dud in the theater, but it's a classic to us. And then later on, people might come around to it. And so as far as like success and people wanting or liking a certain kind of thing, we could be on the other side of it. And it doesn't mean that they're wrong because they don't like it,
Right.
They'll make us wrong that we do like it. Right. But it's still a thing of success, and the majority likes it. And there's a such thing as a, majority not liking it as well.
I have no way of judging that based off of just internet chatter, because it becomes one of those things of like, literally, unless you're going to like, I don't know, do some sort of voting system of like,
all you could do is really ratings or box office and things like that. And like I said, it's a lot of stuff that I don't like that's popular that does well, and I might think it's junk. But obviously it's popular and it's a way to go because the majority likes it.
Well, I think to try and to get to your question of, are they going to be able to continue sort of doing what they've been doing, or are they going to adjust if they think there's enough pushback? I don't know if there's enough pushback.
Because like, okay, Andor, I love that, but I understand why people don't like it, and they probably wouldn't make more of them. And I understand, and that's, but I think that's the best thing they've done in a long time. But I also acknowledge that that wasn't popular, and I know the ratings wasn't as high as I wish they would have been, because I think it was brilliant. But I also know that's not what they wanted.
Right. Not a single lightsaber in the whole thing. That's not Star Wars. I'm not going to watch it. And then people being like, oh, I watched it 6 months later. And I was like, holy shit, it's really good. Like, yeah, need more people like that.
Right. But then, like I said, there are no talks of it coming back, no talks of doing anything else that kind of leans in that direction or whatever. Because I was kind of hoping like people will see this as an adult Star Wars version, and it'll be a whole other thing that's popular enough to spread out and do some more things in that fashion to get more insight and more depth of characters and things like that. But,
well, I mean, they're doing a season 2, but I think the other thing too is when Bob Iger came back in at Disney, he basically was like, hey, everyone, pump the effing brakes. Like, Marvel and Disney, pump your brakes. You're making too much stuff, I think was the thing that I saw from him, where he's like, we're oversaturating our own market. Like, make less stuff, and in theory, make it better. So, I mean, I don't know what effect that will have on what continues to get made as far as Disney does, but as far as like what flavors Disney's going to make, I haven't seen anything that's going to make them go like, oh, we're not going to do this. We are going to do more of this. Like, I don't know. We'll have to even see whether season 2 of this gets renewed. If it does, I'm going to watch it. I don't think it was bad. Like, I was trying to think in my head of the other shows that we watched. What would I rate it above? Book of Boba Fett. Definitely above Book of Boba Fett. I think I would rate it above Kenobi.
Wait. You rated this over Book of Boba Fett?
Oh, absolutely. Above
for sure. Boba Fett. For sure. Okay.
Kenobi's strength is that it's based off of 2 characters that we've spent like the entire prequel movies plus the animated shows. Like, there's a lot of nostalgia, emotional charge there that helped carry that show. And it ended on a big emotional fight. Yeah. But the rest of it wasn't as strong as that. And I feel like this was slightly more consistent overall through the whole thing.
Yes. I think Obi-Wan had a hard time because it had so much it could have done. And it's more sensitive to what rails it touches. And it's almost kind of like to do it right, it would take a lot. And they just need to get in there, do it, and get out without disrupting too much stuff. So you can't be in there playing too long because it's going
Talk
to hit
about being
something.
worried about the continuity.
Right. It's going to hit something. So it's almost trapped. It's almost like you can't even do nothing with that character without a disturbance happening. And really the ideal character where they could have just kind of went crazy and really did something would have been Book of Boba Fett. And they didn't. You know what I mean? That was the one you were supposed to go crazy on because he has a big enough gap where you could really have fun and do something, and they still didn't do it. So, you know, sometimes it's like the box is too big, and some other ones the box is too small, and so yeah. So I agree. I like this one better than both of those.
I think it's not quite Mando season 1 or 2 or even 3. It's also doing a different thing, right? It's an inherently different flavor of show, but it was entertaining.
But is it competent in that doing, though? That's the thing, because I wouldn't even judge it against, because really, regardless of the story, we are judging about, you know, is this flowing right? Is it, because because our thing is not usually, you know, continuity necessarily stuff. It's usually like, man, that was weird pacing or weird.
Yeah.
Why did this happen? We're talking more
hiccups?
of that stuff. Exactly. Like, are you telling the story right? Are you putting this, you know, how are you getting away with this story? Like, you can tell me a lie, but don't have me look at you crazy the whole time. Like, stop lying. Let me find out at the end that you lied to me. Be like, oh, that was impressive.
And
so
this is why
we're more on
that. This is why I put it below Mando, sort of quality wise.
That's fair.
It had too many hiccups. It had a lot less than Kenobi or certainly Book of Boba Fett. But I mean, I still had fun with it.
But them fight scenes, man, that Matrix
So
fall
good.
off the second floor going down slow motion, and
if people were starving for classic Star Wars Jedi Sith lightsaber fights, because we really and Ahsoka, right? Had some of it there, but we've kind of been starving all through the Mando, Book of Boba Fett era. Got a little bit in Kenobi. Ahsoka was pretty decent, but I would say the fights in this are better than in Ahsoka.
Oh yes,
Ahsoka's were good. These were great.
Yes,
but and that helps elevate it a little bit, but it still has a little bit of those hiccups and stuff. But it's still not enough to, I think, justify people being like, this is the worst thing ever.
I think it was more or less they just didn't want it, more so than it being bad. Sometimes it's just like, did it taste bad? No, it doesn't taste bad. I just didn't want it. I wasn't hungry for that.
And, you know, maybe the hiccups that we were like, they're like, no, I can't stand those hiccups. Like, period. I was like, all right.
And that's fair. I was nitpicky about Man of Steel.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, just not my Superman.
so you know the saying, the customer is always right.
Yeah.
Do you know the second half of that?
No.
That always gets omitted. The customer is always right in matters of taste. That's the original saying. It's just been bastardized into the customer's always right. It's like, yes, you can be right about what you like, right? What your tastes are, right? That's the flavor you prefer, right? Doesn't mean you can harass. Doesn't mean you can harass the people that work at the store, or the actors in the show, or the directors or the producers, right? So,
but that's just society now. They do that about everything. People will put you on blast for not liking the meal at the restaurant. So that's the thing. Anything is public is open to scrutiny. And is it cool? No. And do I think most people would say something? Probably to themselves, or just doesn't, or just don't, support it, or if somebody asks them, like, But I think loud people who likes expressing themselves that way, even if it's,
as they say, squeaky wheel.
Exactly.
It's the loud wheel, because I do see people online being like, no, it was fine, I enjoyed it, or like, no, wasn't for me.
Because really,
go have fun with it. I wish there was more of just like what you like, I don't care.
But the funny thing is, with all the banter, like especially with this show, there's way more people that don't even know what this is. They don't even know what this is. They'll see it on Disney Plus and skip. I'm going to Lion King, or I'm going to, Little Mermaid, or whatever. This is not even their thing. Like, we are outnumbered just in general, the people who don't watch this. There's more people who don't watch it than watch it.
Oh man, there was some article the other day I forget which like IP it was. It was something on Disney Plus where it was something like 4%, 5% maybe of like things that were viewed. So like all views
Mhm.
across Disney Plus. This one thing. Oh, it was Bluey. It was Bluey.
Oh, it's a
Bluey
kid
got
show.
like, yeah, Bluey
Yeah.
got 4 to 5% of all the viewing hours of the content on Disney Plus, which just shows you how stupid popular it is.
Yeah.
Like, it's a really good show. I've seen it. I get it.
Yeah.
I get why people are all about it. But like,
It's the
yeah.
new Barney.
Well, I've actually watched it and I get why. Like, even my buddy Chad, who's like also had a kid recently,
Yeah.
he's also an English professor. He's like, you need to watch this show. It's really fucking good
Yeah.
because it's like one of those things where it's like it's talking at the kid level,
Yeah.
right? The kid level of like what is the story and what's going on. But there's some like adult parent heartstrings that are just being yanked so hard. And it's like, oh, okay, I get it. I get it. Because a lot of the stories are really just like, no, we're going to tell a story here about the dad or the mom
Hmm.
trying to keep themselves together as the kids be kids. The
Right.
kids be kids and they're being cute and they're doing their little thing, but it's like driving their parents up a wall and the parents are trying to be good about it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So no, I get why it's popular, but
Yeah.
yeah, Acolyte's not getting 4 or 5% of all the viewership on Disney Plus.
Yeah. We get passionate, some more passionate than others about stuff, like I said, people don't even really even think about. Like, even think about the people who go to the movies. It's not even really a high percentage. Like, most people don't go to the movies, you know. They'll just
Oh, yeah.
watch it when it comes on TV. But to us, it's our world because we love it. And we you know, so I understand. Like I said, I'm sure that's how people feel about sports. I'm not into sports, but
Oh,
but
God,
to
yeah,
me, that's
yeah.
the other side of, you know, geekdom. Is that, you know, the same way you're wearing a uniform, you're dressing up like your favorite characters, and you're rooting for something that you cannot control.
Right. I've long heard the joke that it's like it's just another flavor of D&D, right? You dress up as your favorite characters, you obsess about numbers and stats the whole time,
That's
and you
funny.
watch live plays of it where
Yeah.
people play the game. And
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, okay, yeah, it's just
Yeah.
different flavor of nerd.
Basically. So yeah. So
I mean, we had fun.
yeah. Always. It's so
Talking
funny
about
how.
Yord's hair.
Yeah. Oh goodness. To the side, just waving at you. It's interesting. I wonder if people are going to look back. I guess it doesn't matter, but I wonder if people are going to, after, you know, all the stuff calms down, will people go back and watch the show with different kind of feeling? Because even some of the stuff, like I said, threw me off the first viewing. And I saw it the second time. I was like, oh, okay. You know, not the best way to do it. I would have preferred some other way, but at least it was kind of covered. It's not this blind walk into the room knocking down all the dishes. It's not that either. You know what I mean?
Right.
Now, are they being kind of, you know, run around a lot, and I'm kind of nervous that they might knock something down? Yes. But they're not just walking around for blindfold in the dark either, just trying to smash stuff up.
Yeah.
Um,
And it'll be interesting too with now that it's done, right? And now that sort of most of the cards are on the table. It'll be interesting to see, what some people's takes and reactions will be, because some of the takes were based off of wildly incomplete information, right? That right where they thought things were happening. Oh, da. So just like I think for us, like I think our excitement kind of waned a little bit of like, are they gonna, right?
yeah.
Like, yeah, it waned a little bit, but I'm curious to see if other people who are like, no, not good, once they see the final result, and I think for some people, oh, there's Sith in here, and they're treated well, and they're cool, and they're interesting, and because they're just bad guys, they get to be proactive. So like, I think some of them will be like, oh, okay. All right, maybe there's more here than I thought there was going to be. I might still have problems with it. Maybe my assessment goes up, or maybe like us, it goes down. Who knows?
Yeah, because it would be like, okay, yeah, the Sith are in here, but then he's like, 9021, oh, bad boy Sith. You know what I mean? Like he's always kind of, suave and kind of, yeah, devil may care. Yeah, whatever.
It's so funny. See, I like seeing like pictures of him. Like there was some like behind the scenes where it's like him and Amanda, right? And they're like taking a selfie, and he's all smiling and like all happy, right? And it's like you see other stuff, and it's like he is acting, right? Like
Yeah.
so much that is so not him. So it's kind of funny to see that dichotomy. But yeah,
Yeah.
not all Sith. They're just like, oh, I'm in an iron suit of pain.
Man, like I said, yeah. Yeah. But yeah, it is an interpretation of Star Wars, and this is the story they wanted to tell. I'm sure it's not for everybody, but like I said, it's enjoyable. Like I said, we've seen worse. That's for sure. That's for sure.
If it was like, let's say they eventually get around to doing Rogue Squadron. Fingers crossed, fingers crossed. I fucking love those books. If they did that, and even if they just like, and I think they should adapt a lot of it. They got to change some stuff, but they got the essentials, right?
Yeah.
But they still had that many hiccups. I'd be a bit more upset. I would.
That's fair.
I'd be a bit more upset because, again, it's a thing I already care about as opposed to this new thing that's being introduced.
Exactly. So that's why when people get upset, I understand. And like I said, do I think some of that stuff is just hype and people just kind of bandwagon or just looking for something to be mad at? Yes. But do I think some people are really upset and hurt by decisions made? Yeah. Yeah. I believe that. And what I think is kind of interesting too is that, the actors and the directors and the screenwriter, they kind of taunting back. So it's this back and forth kind of thing where sometimes some stuff being said might just be to poke at folks, just like people are poking at them, complaining or making threats or whatever they're doing. It's interesting, this back and forth on both sides.
Man, you want some audience poking, you got to talk about the head for The Boys TV show.
Wait, do you watch The Boys?
I've seen season 1. I have not.
Oh, this show is wild.
I think I saw season 1, season 2. I haven't seen
they on
season 3.
They're on season 4 right now.
But the fact that he came out and was straight up like, hey, you far right assholes, this show is mocking you. Like, the bad guys that you love are the bad guys. That's the whole point of the show.
People thought it was a compliment? People thought, huh?
Dude, because there's people that are like, Homelander's awesome. And it's like, you are fucking missing the point.
Yeah, he's crazy.
Yeah, he's crazy. He murders people in the very first episode of season 1. Yeah. Like, there are people that like, so there's some people that are like, dude, villains are cool because they get to be proactive and they get to do all this. They're compelling, all that sort of stuff. But there's like, oh no, and I want to be them. They're so cool. And it's like, whoa, woo, power trip. You power fantasy, back off. Back off. That's some red flag, right?
Right.
Especially in a show like The Boys, where it's like they're supposed to be the good guys, but it's like basic media literacy is like they're not. They're fuck ups. Like they are our 4 Jedi, like amped up to 10, right? Of not even like, oh no, we made mistakes. Of like, oh fuck it, I don't care. Let's cover it up.
Yeah.
Right. But the fact, but to the point of like, the showrunner is like, no, it's about you, you dumb fucks. This satire is about you, and it has gone entirely over your head.
Yeah, and it's lined up with a lot of stuff political things going on right now. And the plot is very interesting, is lining up with what's going on right now. And the thing is too, okay, and this is a good example. The fact that these characters are characters nobody knows, for the most part, you could do this. But if this was the Justice League, who they are being, making fun of,
right,
then you'd be pissed. It wouldn't ride. Even though it's a good story. It's a great story when it's not the characters you know.
Right. Because they're satires. Just like The
Yes.
Watchmen is like a satire of
Well,
the
Star
Justice
Wars,
League.
yeah, and Star Wars isn't satire, and that's the
No.
problem. And that's the problem. It's good as long as they ain't playing with your toys. It's all right. When it's your toys, and hey, wait a minute now, that's a little too rough. Don't turn the head around like that. Don't pull the arm like that. But when it's not your toy, it's okay. You can really appreciate it for what it is. So sometimes, depending on if it's your toy, it makes you a little sensitive to some of the things and stories that's being told. Because, like I said, this is an excellent show, but part of it is because I'm not connected in that way. But like I said, if that was Superman doing that, like, wait a minute, would it be a compelling story? Yes, but not my Superman. Like, I would
Right.
be pissed.
Right.
It wouldn't be funny at all.
The whole point is that he's not Superman. He's like in the position that Superman would be, but he's so not Superman.
It's a sideway threat without saying that you're saying it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I know that's a Superman archetype down to the eye beams, so I know who that's supposed to be. Even almost the color's almost the same. But as long as it's not him,
Right.
it's all right.
Right. His name's
Right.
totally off of it. Yeah. He's different.
Right. But yeah, man. So another one down. That's crazy. As quick as it came, is over.
When does Andor drop? When does Andor season 2 drop?
Yeah, man. And we got to figure out what we're going to do to fill in the gaps because, this is a standalone show now, channel thing now. So we definitely got to have something in between. Otherwise, it's going to be some long gaps in between show. Well, not really, huh? Is there more shows coming up soon that we're expecting?
So, I mean, I don't know when the next Andor. I think it's maybe next year. So that is a gap.
What, are you doing another Andor?
Yeah, they're doing another. Yeah, they greenlit that shit a while ago. I think they're in production, bud. Like, it's
Beautiful.
happening.
I can't wait.
We got Luthen back. Yeah, it's gonna
Man.
talk about our flavor.
Yeah, man. It was just so powerful. I choked up that speech and everything, and
What did I sacrifice?
Everything. Oh, man. Man, that was some great conversations. I was going back listening to that. Man, we were eating that show up with us.
So it's like it's so interesting because like when we talk about, I think sort of like middle of the road shows. Like this is kind of middle of the road. It's not bad. It's not great. It's okay. It's good, right?
Yeah.
And Mandalorian has its high points and its low points.
Yeah.
But then Book of Boba Fett, and then Andor at the extreme. And I also would throw in when we talked about the Batman, right?
Yeah.
On the other channel.
Yeah. Because
that's another like really well
we went
crafted movie. You either can talk about all the things that don't work, or you've got your laundry list of like, dude, this was so fucking good and it tied in with this and it built on this and it da-da-da-da-da. And it's just like the middle of the road ones are kind of like, here. But then when you got like the bad ones, it's just like, the fun thing of Book of Boba Fett was how much it was like, how do we rewrite this? How do we go like, what about this? What about they gonna do this? Da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah, it should never have left itself open like that. I guess I wouldn't expect it, but like I said, I think also a problem with that is that Mandalorian kind of stole the mojo a little bit. It beat him to the punch. It was like, I don't know what else to do with this. It would have been so cool if he would have been in there every once in a while, and the Mandalorian Boba Fett just showed up or something, or fitted in some kind of way, or I don't know. Yeah. But or he's almost like Batman with the Justice League, where he just shows up, but he would just kind of show up sparingly and kept that mystery and kept that,
There's pros and cons of having your characters cross over too often. Sometimes it works, and sometimes it does not.
Right.
Man, I really want a freaking Rogue Squadron movie or TV show now.
I hope we get it. Like I said, seems like everybody's pumping the brakes on everything. But if they're doing that just so they can reassess things and kind of work out their direction on how they want to go and where they're going to go, I'm fine with that.
Yeah. And so long as they give the writers the time and the space
and have a big plan and plan that crap out. Don't let everybody just say, I have a great idea for something. That works sometimes, but then like I said, if you're talking about overall, this is a world, I think you can't be too loose on stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think there's only so far you could go. And like I said, I used to be mad at Kevin Feige about that mess, about getting rid of directors I like or writers I like because it wasn't fitting into the plan. And that bothered me. I'm like, man, I want to see, Edgar Wright's, Edgar Wright. Edgar Wright? Yeah,
I think so.
Edgar
Yes.
Wright's Ant-Man, it was his baby. He came up with all that kind of stuff. And I was like, man, because he didn't want to tie it into everything else. He wanted to have a standalone. But I understood, because really it was working the way he did it. So Kevin had a bigger idea. And so either you're down with it or you're not on it. And like I said,
That's
I thought
a
that
lot
was
to juggle.
rough, but it worked. And then, but I think he had too much on his hands and he wasn't, having a big plan like he was, and you saw how it fell apart like everything else did, like for DC and all the rest of that stuff. Like if you don't have that stuff mapped out and have it worked out, you are in trouble because
DC had a
connected.
much shorter trajectory to fall apart.
It did, but I don't think nobody really had a big vision.
There wasn't a uniform.
And even the vision wasn't even like, yeah, he was flipping the switch on stuff, and that's fine if it was something that was so worn out that it had nowhere else to go. For the most part, people of this generation never had the first one. Let them start off small, get the palette acclimated to what's what, and then you start doing your twists. But to start off with that, and the Batman they got is, blowing people up and stuff. Yeah, that's maybe not start with that type of Batman.
To the whole thing of like giving showrunners and writers, and I think even like sort of the head creatives that are trying to like lay out multiple sort of things interconnected.
Yeah.
Like my day job is doing technical curriculum, right? And you can't just lay out one course outline at a time. Like you should see these diagrams that I have where it's like, okay, I'm going to take this one course of like related things and itemize everything that's going to be covered. But then I have to know all the things that have been laid out first in prior courses, because I can't reference those things unless I've sufficiently explained it. So it's like this massive sequencing, this atomized sort of like knowledge map of like, all right, we're going to start way over here and we're going to do this and then we're going to add, and it's like figuring out your alphabet, right? So, and it's when you start and you just throw it on the wall, none of those letters are in fucking order. Like it's like, oh, I'm going to have to do like 5-6 drafts, maybe over like a couple months. Right. And sometimes it's like, oh, I go into that first course and I actually start writing it out and I'm like, I gotta change this course. I gotta move this course because actually I need to do this other thing first. So like, it's fucking hard.
Yeah.
Like running these shows.
Yeah.
Like writing episodes, writing whole season arcs, right? Doing overlapping shows and movies and like.
Gotta pick the right players for the right position.
God.
It really matters. Like I said, when you see stars come kind of work it out, like Kevin Feige, like Bo DeMayo.
Give them the time. Give them the time they need.
Yeah. Like people like Bo DeMayo, like stuff. When people have a talent,
they need to rehire Bo. Jesus fucking Christ. We're talking about X-Men 97.
They hired somebody else, man.
Fire.
So we'll see what it is. And supposedly
they got a new guy?
Yeah, they supposedly talking about messing with, and he's from something else. I can't remember what else he did, but he's been around before, and he said something about he's messing with season 2, even though Bo already kind of laid it out. So I hope that's not true, and he's not touching that mess. Leave it alone. Start on 3. Pick the right person. Leave them alone, let them do their thing, and don't screw with the process. If you trust them enough to let them have that position, vet them right, hire them, trust them, and let it be what it's going to be. But all this other stuff, everybody's not built like that. It might be more popular names and more well-known folks, but they may not have that skill set. It's a very sensitive thing. Like even somebody like Kevin Feige, if he gets too much on his plate, you see it kind of spittles out of control as well. So, it's interesting. But when it works, it's a beautiful thing. He had a nice run of things, man, for a long time.
Absolutely.
A long time. Yeah. So you know what's probably more likely going to happen on the other show? We'll be talking about Deadpool Wolverine. You know we're going to talk about
Yeah. Oh,
that. So that's coming up soon. So yeah,
absolutely.
that'd be a
God,
good
that's gonna be a
conversation.
blast.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good conversation. I'm looking forward to that. Um, any parting words, man? It's gonna be till next time we be here chalking it up. What do you want to leave with?
I would say, get your sleep, stay hydrated as best you can.
Wise words.
Don't give in to the dark side, right?
Yes.
Remember sort of the whole point of Star Wars. Don't give in to the dark side.
Beautiful. I will have to piggyback that. I would say, yeah, keep things simple. I would say when it comes to stuff like this, watch it for yourself. Enjoy what you like. Stuff is not for you. Don't lean into it.
Right.
And that's okay too. You don't have to love everything. I used to be very temperamental about stuff and maybe sticking to feeling a certain way about something, or even getting lost in hearing people talk about something and I think, oh, and just kind of write it off. I'll say just try it for yourself, sample it, see if you like it or not. And if you, like I said, if you like it, continue. If you don't, there's so much stuff out there that's good to pick and choose from. Spend it on things that you love and will deserve your attention. That is Jay and Ryan. This is our season 1 conversation review discussion of the Acolyte 1 through 8. Once again, it's been a pleasure, young Ryan. Until next time, peace.
From a galaxy far, far away. Radio voice.
Peace.